Hello everyone, my name is Jakob Yarosh, and this is my presentation on the chemistry of coffee. To begin, there are two different types of coffee. There is Coffea arabica, shown on the left, and Coffea canephora, shown on the right of your screen. Coffea canephora is known as Robusta coffee and is the more common bean to use in coffee blends. You can see there are slight visual differences between them. The Coffea canephora bean is slightly larger and the pigment is a little bit different. But the main difference, the biggest difference, comes from the chemical components. So this can differ on species, or it can differ on brewing technique, which is shown with the ranges here, because the different brewing technique is going to give you different amounts of these components. So Coffea arabica has less caffeine in it than canephora, which is mainly why it's not used as much. And then you have higher amounts of lipids and carbs in Coffea arabica, which isn't necessarily great. More carbs and more fats isn't always better. But you'll notice that this trigonelline has a positive effect on the human body, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And Coffea arabica has more of that in its chemical composition than canephora, which is significant. So we'll start off with caffeine. What is it? Well, caffeine is the active substance in coffee, and it's what people connect coffee with is caffeine. It has a positive effect on our energy, and it has an addictive effect on our system, which isn't a positive effect, it's more like a negative effect. But caffeine is structurally similar to adenosine, and you'll maybe find a connection, adenosine and adenosine triphosphate. As an energy source, adenosine stimulates our brain. So it's going to treat caffeine similarly to adenosine and have stimulating effects on our brain. And right here, this image, you'll see the structure of caffeine and just a little bit of organic chemistry. So when you're looking at these pictures, you know what components are in caffeine. In this hexagon, you'll see these points where they aren't labeled as nitrogens, but you'll see the points on this hexagon. Those are carbons. And each point represents a carbon, and then the two lines, like right here in between and right here by this nitrogen on the right side, those are double bonds. Those are double bonds, and that just represents bond strength. But that's just for your reference. This is what caffeine looks like. And in terms of categorization, coffee isn't a macronutrient. It does have carbs, hydrogens, and oxygens. It does have, carbons, hydrogens, and oxygens. And it also has nitrogens, which is a identifying aspect of proteins, but it is not considered a macronutrient in the slightest. It is considered an alkaloid, which basically means that it has a nitrogen, a carbon, and a hydrogen. Trigonelline is an alkaloid, speaking of, and it is structurally different than caffeine, and it has a different function in the body. It has a positive effect on our body, and it's broken down into so many different chemical components. But the main one is nicotinic acid, known as niacin, or vitamin B3. And we know that vitamins of the B complex have an effect on our metabolism, and that's their main function. So consuming caffeine does have a positive effect on our metabolism, and it helps us break down nutrients and use them more efficiently. And you'll see figure 4 here, there's a structure of trigonelline, and figure 5, there's a structure of niacin. They are different. So the carbs in coffee, there are different numbers, different percentages, but the average is around 50%. So that 50% consists of complex polysaccharides, and those don't contribute much to taste. And then you have monosaccharides, including galactose, glucose, fructose, arabinose, and mannose, and those contribute to taste more than the complex polysaccharides. And just a little exercise physiology here. carbs are used as a main energy source when you exercise. Mainly high-intensity exercise, your muscles tend to use glycogen, which is made from carbohydrates. So aside from caffeine, can you think of a reason why people would drink coffee? I'll give you a second. All right, so basically, people consume carbs to help replenish their stores, or build up their stores so they have energy throughout the day when they're walking, or if they exercise throughout the day, they have enough carbs so their body doesn't tire and exhaust as fast. Next is the lipids in coffee, and those average about 17% content, and 75% of those lipids are triacylglycerols, or just triglycerides, and that's the main substance in fat storage. And going back to carbs as an energy source, lipids also have an energy source, are used as an energy source, and those are used when you have light intensity exercise. So just basically being physically active, you use fats as an energy. So you can see that people will consume coffee also because of the energy content come from carbs and lipids. Other lipids include sterols and tocopherols. Sterols in coffee don't have an effect on our body because the only sterol that is important in the human body is cholesterol, and that comes from animal proteins. And then tocopherols, specifically alpha tocopherol, that's known as vitamin E. And vitamin E has very important functions in our body. It's an antioxidant. It helps get rid of free radicals. When you exercise or when you put your body under stress, it'll help get rid of those free radicals and protect your cell membranes from damage. And here, figure 7, you can see triglyceride. It's a glycerol backbone and then 3 fatty acid chains. And then you have the structure of vitamin E. It's pretty complicated. It's just that's vitamin E on paper. And then you have proteins, which are about 10% of the total composition. It's very low, but they do contain amino acids that are essential for our health. So essential amino acids are ones that our body cannot produce by itself, and there are 9 of them, which would be methionine, threonine, leucine, isoleucine, valine, lysine, phenylalanine, histidine, and tryptophan. All of those we need to consume in our diet, and by drinking coffee, we consume those, and our body can then use it to help build structures. And so we can consider coffee a complete protein because it has all of those amino acids. And here you can see the figure 8, 9, and 10, leucine, structures of leucine, lysine, and tryptophan. And additionally, research has been done to see if proteins contribute to the bitterness of coffee at all, and there has been no correlation of that. And besides the liquid portion of coffee, the aroma also has some chemistry to it. There are tons of complex chemical compounds in the aroma of coffee that I don't understand, but there were 2 specifically that were tested to see if they had harmful effects on the body, and those were methylglyoxal and hydrogen peroxide. They were found to have a direct relationship with mutagenicity, or the capacity to cause mutations. So basically, if there's more methylglyoxal and hydrogen peroxide in something, it's more mutagenic, or it can cause more mutations, in a nutshell. Overall, the study concluded that methylglyoxal and hydrogen peroxide don't have a negative effect on the human body because there's not enough of it to have a negative effect. Instead, sulfuric compounds had a more harmful effect. A connection you can make is acid rain. There's sulfur in that, and that has a bad effect on everything, not just humans. But yes, sulfur is more harmful than those 2 compounds. These are my references. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.